Any questions or corrections on the minute?
Make a motion to approve the utility board meeting minutes for May 13th, 2019.
Second.
The motion second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Motion to move the claims to the regular meeting.
Motion to move the claims docket to the regular meeting.
Second.
The motion second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Adjustment report.
All right, the first two that we have on here, there was an error in the meter reading. So we had to adjust those and credit the account. The third one, Timothy Daughtry moved. We applied his deposit to his last bill, so we adjusted that. The next four, Wendy Klotz and TDS Automation. Wendy had moved out of that property. TDS Automation moved in there. They were not aware that they had to sign up for water service. So we contacted them, they came in and signed up. So basically we put her bills onto their account since they had been there. And then since they don't have trash service, they have a dumpster. We adjusted off the trash fee as well. Brett Manning, he came in and made a payment. The payment did not actually get applied to his account, but we deposited his payment in the bank. When he got his next bill, he brought it in questioning it, so we researched it, found where we had made the deposit, but just failed to post the payment, so we credited him back for that. And then he also had a meter reading error as well. David Brenneman, he had a leak, and in a previous meeting we approved the adjustment. Same thing with Colleen Kistler.
What problems are we having on the meter reading errors?
I'm not 100% sure on that. Mark, do you have any insight on that one?
Because I think it's on the side of Keystone.
Right.
It's the number, so how do you go read one and it say they use 3,300 gallons? The bill, they would have got a bill for 5,000 gallons. So, and if I go back, I can go back 96 days, it will show the same reading, the correct reading. So I think it's somewhere in that transfer of dates.
We can look into it further.
Is it happening on the same addresses?
No.
It rolls, so if you use 3,300 gallons, it charges you for 3,
Mm-hmm.
and then next month, if you use 3,600,
I charge you for 4.
not because you're over that 500, but because of that 300 from the previous.
Right.
month.
Right.
So that's a little bit hard to explain to people.
Right.
Like that.
Okay. Thank you. Make a motion to approve the adjustment report.
Second.
The motion second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Clerk treasurer report.
The only thing I have for that this week, we did file 2 more water liens, Clifty Falls and Shacklemack. And then we have had issues with people calling the morning they're going to be disconnected and wanting to make payment arrangements to avoid disconnect, and then they don't pay when they say they're going to pay. So Michelle and I came up with a payment agreement, payment extension form. I'll have you guys pass those down. Basically, we're wanting to try to utilize this, so if somebody calls in and they're making a payment agreement, we can put it down in writing. Both of us sign it, and we will keep a copy in the office, and they will get a copy in the mail as well. And then this basically just states that what the agreement is that they made. If they don't keep it, then services will be disconnected on such and such date. So basically, we're just wanting to make sure that legally we can do this, and if so, we can get it approved.
I'll take a look at it.
Sounds good. And that's all I have for that on the utility side.
Reed, do you have anything?
Dayton United Methodist Church settlement agreement release, I just haven't finalized yet, so that's still on my list to do. I think that's the only thing to update you on as far as utilities, but other things to discuss in the regular meeting.
Mike, this is the church wanted, we can pass these along, all of you get a copy of this. You might have it, you might not. I think they emailed you something this afternoon, I don't know, it's not, this is it.
Yeah, I did.
Part of the original agreements. Basically about the land is the inside the town limits land, not outside. So,
Yeah, I did receive an email
Okay.
from them. Thanks, Ron.
Have we sent the easement request documents to the Methodist Church yet?
So I got confirmation from Greg Malakis and his attorney Ryan on it on Thursday, and sent those on to Ty on Friday. I believe that the town council months ago had approved me to go ahead and send it on, but I wanted to just get confirmation and see what email address the church would want me to send it to electronically. So that's where I'm at, but I haven't sent it yet.
You just need an email address and where to send it to.
Yeah, just wanted confirmation from Ty that you're fine with me doing that.
Yeah, I mean, you want to send it to their trustee, or who would you like to send it to there? Because I mean, we have Dave's email, and when you get the pastors, I don't know who you guys, if there's a certain point of contact that you have,
I received an email today. It was the first time I've received an email from the church. It was from like Dave's administrative assistant at his office. So
I look at the email, just pass it on to you.
All right,
yeah, I mean the main thing is just wanted confirmation. Send it and then.
Yeah.
would we okay this email, or, I mean, this easement agreement, or does the board have to agree to it, or do you just decide something and send it to them?
Well, I'm not sure I understand
Well,
your
I
question.
think if they gotta come up with the easements, they send it to you to look at it, then doesn't the board have to approve it too? I mean, basically, if I understand it right, you're sending them an easement for something that they've already said out here several times that there is no easements there, and it sounds like you're sort of forcing their hand by doing it, but my point is, if we even okayed that. I don't think we've really okayed that. We've never,
I think between the developers, engineering people and our engineering people, don't you folks come up with what's needed for easements, temporary, permanent and such?
I don't see a mic, but I'm loud enough. Yeah, what has transpired up to this point is, one, we have submitted, made presentations, submitted drawings to the board, and then last presentation, we made the presentation, and then we also said that we would need to consult with your consultant to be sure that the easement was what the consultant felt that you needed. And so, if you remember, we were to go to the consultant, get approval on the easement, even though the easement that we asked for was nothing new. We had presented it before at previous meetings. So we went to the consultant, then we wrote, once they said, yes, this is what you need, we wrote the legal descriptions, then Teeter prepared the documents and have provided you that document. And you were the ones that said, yes, do this procedure. and then it would go to you, and then you would end up making the request to the church for the easement.
In this process, is the town of Dayton's engineering company, BF&S, involved for checks and balances?
Yes, they were.
Yeah.
They submitted the easement.
Oh, I didn't see you.
And I looked at them, and I don't have any new plans, but I did consult with your engineer, and they said that's what they needed constructed, so,
So BF&S is good with it.
yeah. They
So-
said that they can construct it within those limits.
So you made an easement, we're gonna put, the board's all okay with this, put water and sewage down the same side of the road, next to each other. And you're okay with that too, that's not normally done.
Yeah, as long as it's.
We didn't decide that.
It can be split, or it can be beside each other, as long as it does have separation. It can't be closer than 10 feet, but their plan does not show it closer.
But, I mean, it seems like everybody I talked to, whether it's Mark or people in town or whatever.
Not me, not me.
Yeah, I know, not you. Well, no, when I talked to Greg, he liked it, the water on our side of the road. And I think you, one time, sort of liked it. If we just give it to you, you guys would like it there. But you think you're gonna have to negotiate or something, so you think you have the natural easement down the church's side, which I think they stated that they won't sign and they won't, and you'll probably end up in court. But you're still gonna, you're sort of forcing them to put both of them on one side, when I think everybody here's mentioned they should be split up. So why are we going down one side when we all know they should be split up and they should go down each side?
Mr. Kohler, we have been here for, I don't know, 2 years now, and going through the process. And we are trying to do this in a good way as far as design is concerned, and we are. And I explained at the last meeting that there are not the conflicts that some people think there are in the water and the sewer on one side. If the sewer and the water were at the same elevation, then yes, naturally there would be conflicts, and we would try to avoid that. Also, we are concerned because we've been at it for 2 years, and we want to do it, this process, as quickly as we can, and we know that if we go the other side, that there will probably be more and more delays, and 2 years down the road, I'll still be standing here. So that is the reason that we're taking the route that we're taking.
Okay, well, one thing on the utilities, you guys never brought it up to the church, the town, or anybody until at that meeting downtown. I brought it up to you guys and asked if they had the easements. So you've really only been working on it, you haven't been working on those easements for 2 years. You've only been working on them a few months. You know, you should have really done.
I have met with members of the church, it's been over a year ago, and I had one meeting later on site, in the middle of the summer, a year ago, with the members of the church. So for you to say that we've only been working on this easement for a few months
Okay, when did
is
we have
not
that?
correct.
When did we have that stormwater down?
I'm sorry, what?
When did we have that stormwater subdivision meeting downtown? All you guys in the room, and Alex is there, and Ashley, and Mark. When was that? Does anybody remember?
Probably a year ago.
And
Well, that's when the easements were brought up, and you guys said you're gonna start working on them. I don't know when you worked on them, because you must only ask the one side, I guess.
Ron, do you and the board want it on the other side? I mean, are you willing to, if they drafted that easement,
Well,
or is that more discussion? I guess that's,
I think in the
what I
past,
need
I
to
think
know.
what I remember in the past is that, I thought that everybody here, if there wasn't a fight here, we just naturally put the water down, like we've always done, water down one side and the sewage on the other side. Mark's told me, and you can add or take away from this, what is your opinion on the water and sewage?
Well, it's always best to have it on separate sides, so there's, for future maintenance and installation. I think that,
we run through a lot of projects where they end up on the same side just because of constraints.
Well, Yeah, it can be done, Michelle, but I think,
And achieving the separation is real easy in this
The
particular project.
separation is the key, you cannot have them on the same side, that's 10 state standards, you can, that's
Yeah.
federal regulation.
I guess when did we vote on putting them on one side? I don't think we've ever had a vote to say we're gonna put them down. We said, go work with them and work something out, but I don't, if it's something that the town's gonna pay for down the road, or get hurt down the road, or it's just an unnatural thing, I'm willing to bend as far as water on our side. I've said that now for how many months when you've been out here? And I think you guys just sort of pursue the church because you think you can, you just think you're gonna say you can do it down there, so.
Mr. Cord, we had a meeting with you about an easement, and in that meeting, you wanted to put all kinds of conditions
No, I didn't.
upon putting an easement on that side. Oh, yes, you did. You want me to name them?
Yeah,
It had to do with the town board, and it had to do with Ashley Stevenson. And
No, it
it
did
had
not.
conditions that we can't control, because we cannot control
You're
these
sitting
members,
there,
and we certainly
hey, you're
cannot
sitting
control
there.
Mr. Stevens.
Ron, let
I
him
can-
talk, Ron, let him finish. You got your turn.
So, we decided that the only reason that we wanted that easement, but we decided that there were conditions you were putting on it we couldn't handle, that there was nothing we could do with and do about or control. And so we decided that that was the time to make the decision to go ahead and prepare that easement down the east side of the road.
Can I answer you? Down at that meeting, I only said that I had other prior things to work out first. And you guys asked if you could help me do it, and I said no. That was up to me. Afterward, you asked me, Greg called me, he asked me to come back down there. I said, no, that's not right. We need to discuss this with everybody. And I said I was working on my separate deals. You guys also, after that meeting, called me up, Greg did at least, and asked me he's asked me the easements on our side of the road, would they be free or not? He said, yeah, I'd like to put, just within the last month, I'd like to put them there. Will they be free, Ron? And I said, well, there must be some going. Greg, I'd have to think about it. But I said, Greg, we both know they should be separated for the good of this town. What you said there to begin with down there, I didn't put any restraints other than you're sort of misrepresenting what happened. I said I had to work out two things first, and then we would talk about those. And one of the things was listening what this board did with the church and everything, because it depended on what happened on the other side of the road. Many times I probably said to Greg, 10 times over in conversations with him, hell, we talked to each other 6 times in one day, you know, and I probably said it ought to be on our side of the road. But then you guys had you read these maps and everything, and it's your interpretation of how far you can stick an easement down there, and the church thinks otherwise and other people think otherwise. But still, this board didn't agree. We've never voted on or about having them both on one side of the
We
road.
had-
I think, Mike, you said one time they ought to be
We had
separate.
several meetings where I think we were in agreement that when both of them on the one side of the road was all right, and gave that approval to the developer. You know, I mean, you're gonna have, at very minimum, sewage going down one side of the road, so you gotta dig and have, use easements and such on the one side of the road. I mean, it's common, and there's nothing wrong with having both utilities.
So then why don't we do this on every street out here? Why don't we put them all down one trench from now? Why this first time in the history of Dayton, we're putting them on one side, so.
I'm not so
But
sure.
there was-
And I'm gonna listen to those tapes, because I think there's a lot more dialogue, and I don't think we agreed to it.
I'm not so sure that we don't have some that are on the same side.
Well, I'd like to know where they are, because I've never heard of that.
And I thought that this easement that we're asking of the church is gonna be necessary regardless of where the lines are put.
Exactly.
That's correct.
Yeah, but you're asking for a 30-foot, and if the lines, we decided
The 30
the
foot.
next week, we decided to
35, I think.
water on one side and the sewage on the other, then you wouldn't need that wider easement.
I don't think that's what the engineers are saying though. I think that there would not be a smaller or a more narrow easement, so
Because
it's
it's
two
so
separate
Because it's
things.
so deep.
The sewer is deep enough that the sewer is driving a 30-foot easement
Yeah.
because of its depth, because it needs to be deep so that it can continue on or whatever.
So in front of my house, there's a 30, in front of everybody's houses, there's a 30-foot, because it's all 13 to 16-foot
No,
deep.
it's 16-foot deep,
So
yeah.
is there a 30-foot easement? I thought there was only about a 15-foot easement in front of everybody's house.
Well,
Ron?
Well,
Normally-
wait, I'm asking her a
Okay,
question.
all right.
Well,
I don't know what your easement is, but from the construction limits that they have to put in that, that's what the easement is.
well, I don't know why they're all the same depth, why this one would need 30 foot
Well,
or
some,
35.
They're not the same
even
depth.
though the rock, even though the
No, the
sewer
six.
is that deep, the ground does different things above it, so some.
It's all level, Michelle, all over there, it's exactly, there's no runoff anywhere, and it's 16 foot, whether it's in front of our house or at the church.
So
No,
technically, it probably needed, did they do temporary easements to install it? I don't know, I wasn't around, but the thing is they provided construction limits based on the depth of the sewer. And to get that construction limit in, and even with that, they're gonna be putting in trench boxes. Cause I was
Well,
worried
they
that
put
30
them
feet
down
was
Shady
wide
Lane
enough.
too,
Yeah.
they put trench boxes.
So, I was wary of 30 feet with as deep as it is, but they said they could do the trench boxes and their engineers certifying that it could be done within those construction limits. So based on the construction limits, the sewer has to be 30 feet deep. The water's only 5 feet deep.
I know,
And so
sewage is-
it's coming closer to the road. And part of that with installing the sewer has to be so far away from the road based on how deep it is too, that's what the
Well,
construction
I know,
limits.
if you have
and how it's
15 foot, you
engineered.
can have it further from the road too, I just seems unusual to have 30 or 35 foot.
Yeah,
Wouldn't-
without getting in the road. Some sewers are right up next to the road, but they tear up the road and put them in, so.
It's a shame we're gonna rip down all these trees and everything.
All right. Thank you.
But I don't know, I mean, it's up to the board on, I don't think engineering wise it hurts to be on either side.
So the easement is the first step. All we're asking is to present it to the church. And I think that that's completely separate from the legal document, legal terms in the easement that specify where the sewer and the water are gonna be installed. I think that that's separate. That's why I just don't understand the resistance to sending this easement onto the church and seeing what the church says.
Well, because, Reed, because they've been out here for 3 or 4 months saying that there are no easement. There's a big argument on are there easements all the way down there or whatever. The church is saying they don't want a wider easement, I think, in the past, and there's no easements. You created a docket that's just telling the church there's an automatic easement all the way down, right?
No.
They're asking for the easement all the way down.
You're asking for the
The
easement.
church is looking for a formal request from this town. You know, this is that,
So the church,
that formal request.
so they've been,
They can reply however
they've been out here saying, I think at the last meeting we were talking about, that I think if you request this, they're going to deny it, is the way I understand it. So why would you request something they're going to deny?
Because they haven't seen it, and we need to have direct communication instead of hearsay. You know, we need to know if they say that they're not gonna sign it, then why?
Well, I thought they,
They
I
need
thought
to-
somebody had a
They
question.
need to see it in writing.
Yeah, they haven't seen it.
All they've heard is the
Can I ask Cindy what she wants to say? Because
So, we're just sending it to them to.
Right.
basically.
And that's what we talked about, that's what we've been working on, that's what, I think the town council, I just sent it to Tyrone because, we didn't need a full vote on it, we're here, letting you know. It's gonna be signed by the town council if the church agrees to it, so I just haven't had time to email it on to you. I did email everything on the tie, and so.
Well, you don't even
I'll
have it
email it
on
on.
the agenda, we're talking about it, you don't even have it on the agenda, you know?
I didn't talk about it.
I asked a question, Ron, she whiz.
The only thing I said,
Well, it sounds like you're making a decision.
no, we agreed at a prior meeting that all of this could be done without another public meeting. So, you know, that happened, and that's why all of this could have been done if I had the email, and, you know, I just was asking to confirm, and, you know, that's why, the only thing that I talked about was the church settlement agreement.
All right. Anything else?
No.
New or old business? Utility report.
Okay, so, first item under water is inch and a half meter. So this last winter, we had an inch and a half meter freeze up over here at Anderson's Restoration, the body shop over here. And, they're made out of brass. Those large ones have a brass body, or bronze body on it, bronze. And, Troy Anderson, he volunteered to weld it up. He had the right kind of welder to weld that up, just had a hairline crack, and of course you can't have any type of leak in it. So I got a hold of Utility Supply, the company that sold us the meter, to see what their thoughts were on welding up these meters. And they said, no, they'll do one better because there's a guarantee on those meters, that they won't do that. So although Troy was willing to help us out on it, and that's a $600 water meter, so they're gonna stand behind it, and we should be getting a new one in the future. What I did at that particular time is, you know, I guess whenever that was that a lumber yard? I assume that's why they maybe put in that larger water service, because Troy in his business does not need that. So I just put reducers in, put a 1-inch meter in, and it supplies all the water he needs. It's still plumbed for inch and a half, so if that changed in the future, we could put an inch and a half in there, but that's how we addressed it at the time. So anyway, Utility Supply is gonna make good on their product, and I'm glad to hear that. Wastewater, each year we have to have the meter calibrated for the city of Lafayette, and that was taken care of here in the last month. You had approved the pump to be replaced at the Deerfield lift station. That pump was pulled. Our new one, our new spare that we had on site was put in. The old one's still in the shop getting repaired, so hopefully they'll be able to replace the windings or whatever's needed on that. I'll keep you up to date on it. Stormwater, the drainage ditch. So it's a project that just won't get finished up because of all the rain. But I spoke to Mike Weathers with Heartland Excavating, who has that contract. He is aware that it's not gonna take some extra work to get that the way that we want it. But that work will not be at any cost to the town, it's just part of doing business, you know. So if you have residents who have concerns about that project still not being done, and as soon as it dries out, he's eager to get it finished up also, so he can get paid and move on.
Are they gonna run back through there, because I'm sure
Oh,
with
yeah.
all the rain, the silt's come right back in,
Yeah,
not being seeded.
yeah, we'll make sure that whenever it's finalized, it will be the way that it should be. So Yost Drive,
Mark, on the drainage,
yeah,
when I was up there, Alex's mother that lives there was concerned about the swamp in the lower part, that triangle.
yes.
And she was saying that, I think Ashley, you had talked to her and said she'd have to mow it or something.
We would like for them to maintain it.
Okay, so there's still stumps and a lot of stuff in there. They'll have to take it out, leave it in grass, mowable grass, so when it's
Yes.
done.
Yes, and they're well aware of that. I said, you know, we want these to be finished, graded, and seeded, so that someone can take a mower in there, their regular lawnmower, and mow that without damaging it. That's the the standard that we're looking for. Not only there, but also some places back behind the places on Cable's Mill. We want that back in there that way also.
Clifton Falls.
Yes.
I bet they have to, you know, when it rained the other day, there was a foot and a half in there.
But it got away quickly.
It went down pretty quick,
It did.
but they're not.
And that was a pretty good rain in a short amount of time. But yeah, it was underwater.
And then her fence there drops down just like 5 foot,
Yeah.
just straight down. That's
Yeah.
gonna be a nightmare.
We need to figure out exactly what, it's a short strip in between the concrete ditch and her fence.
Yeah.
So we need to handle that a little bit differently. That might end up being one of those blankets. We'll see. It needs cleaned up again before we decide on that. So, Yost Drive, so, BF&S, got the score for being a selected consultant for that project. The state has approved everything up to the point of contract negotiation. So on the 19th, I'll be at their office downtown just to get the preliminary stuff started and discussion started on that. As we move along, we'll become more involved in it, but I just want to get it started and see what the basic idea is. I've received from the state the basic matrix that tells me, you know, between 7 and 14% is the allowable percentage compared to construction costs that consultants get. So, and there's a matrix that shows, well, for this type of project it's high, for this type of project it's low. So that's part of looking at all of that to determine where we think those fees should be. But I'm just getting started on it, and after I meet with them on the 19th, we'll move from there. Okay. The community crossing grant, that's going to be discussed during the regular board meeting, so we'll skip that for right now. State Road 38. So that project is moving forward. It's actually broke down into 2 sections. One is the in-town section, which is handled by a firm called Shrewsbury Engineering. And the section from the town limits all the way to 421 is Hanson Engineering. So we're primarily, concerned about the in-town portion. And been talking to them, that we want to get details about how far out the sidewalks are going. Are they going to include that entrance to Delaware on the other side of the highway? And all these things would be at no cost to the town. Okay, so we want to see what their plans are. We're going to meet with them. We don't have a date yet, but I'll let you all know when that meeting's going to take place. They've asked to hold it here at the town hall. It won't be a town board meeting at all. It'll just be an opportunity for us to meet with them, see what their ideas and designs are. Okay. The Dollar General. So I have a letter from BF&S, and I'll just read it to you. That way we're all on the same page. It says, on behalf of the town of Dayton, we have completed the review of the subject project as-built. Our review indicates that the as-built represent that the project was built to the intended design specifications, and recommend that the town approve the project subject to any comments you might have. So, there's a performance bond over this project right now, 2 of them actually, by Tiffany County. It was on the stormwater side of things. They didn't build the retention pond large enough. There's a couple other erosion control issues. So they made those adjustments. Everything's up to specs now. The county will then need to receive a letter from us saying we approve the as-built and accept the improvements on the project. And that way they'll release their performance bonds. The project will be. I'm guessing that we probably should have a motion of acceptance on this project, just for the record, and that way whenever I send a letter to area plan, I'll reference that. So we want a motion accepting improvements made at the Dollar General, the construction project and approve acceptance of the as-built.
I'd make a motion to approve the improvements at the Dollar General location and approve the as-bills.
Yes.
Motion second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. So you will draw this on, right? You will draw up something to send to the area plan?
I'll take care of that. Yeah, I'll work with Tammy on that this week, and we'll get something settled. The developer, of course, called me this morning and said, hey, is that going good? Because he's wanting to get the bonds released. We'll get that taken care of. Circle K. So after much time, they've installed the concrete post in between their parking lot and the fence next to the police station. So I'm glad to see that, and the fence is on the list to be repaired, just like it was last time. As soon as that's repaired, we'll pay the bill. We send the bill forward to Circle K, and they reimburse us. So they know ahead of time how that's all going to unfold, and they're agreeing to it. So hopefully it'll be the last time the fence gets repaired out there. I know it's been repaired twice in the year I've been here, so it'll be nice to get that behind us. Sidewalk repairs, so when the Vectron subcontractor was in town, had to put in new service lines, they had to tear up a couple sidewalks, 3 of them actually. One on Harrison, one on Main, one on Conjunction, and those have all been completed, and I checked on whatever they were doing, they met the town's specs as far as the development guide and how they did all that, so homeowners should be satisfied with that as well. Holiday lights. So, just to refresh your memory, for the 10 light poles on 38, but receptacles on those for holiday lights is $1,566. Okay? We want clarification on what the monthly fee would be for those, and if it's paid every month year round and not just during the holiday season. So, yes, it is paid every month year round. The cost is about $4 per pole per month. I rounded it was 44 and some odd cents, but it would cost us about $45 a month to have those maintained. So $1,566 for installation, and then cost us $45 a month cumulative for all of them, not each, but cumulative for all of them, for them to be responsible for taking care of them. And there's half of that's the maintenance fee on it. The cost is actually only $20, but there's a $23 a month maintenance fee on it. So those are the numbers. $1,500 more or less to install it, about $45 a month to pay for it. If you want to make it go ahead.
That's really cheap, I think, but.
It was less than I thought it'd be. For some reason, I thought it was going to be $20 per pole per month.
But I just wanted to point out, up at Rossville, I talked to the clerk up there, and theirs, they don't pay anything for it. When it comes to the lighting of those things at Christmas time, they call them up, the energy company, they flip a switch, turn it on, they get billed during the 2.5 months they've got them up, and then that's it.
Is that right?
Yeah, so I don't know why that.
Well, I know when I did this same project in another town that there was a monthly fee. They've thought it through apparently and had it done in a certain way.
I would assume to have that type of a hookup is gonna be pretty salty to have them all on one.
Yes. One
Shut off.
second, yeah.
Yeah, that would be probably a $10,000 hookup there.
And this might be a little bit high in the sense that, they said, well, we want to know, is it going to be LED lights? How many watts are they? Is it going to be incandescent lights? And I said, well, let's do what we'll call the worst case scenario. These are 20-watt incandescent lights, So it could possibly be less if we had the actual lights and we say, hey, these are LED lights and they're only 3 watts. But I didn't want to underestimate, what the draw was going to be. So I said incandescent 20-watt lights.
So what 10 poles are you doing?
everyone that has a street light on. That's sort of a requirement for them to do that. It has to have an existing street light, that way they can pull power down from it. Yeah. And I think there's 10 of them from Pennsylvania down to just before the car wash. And we don't have to make a decision, I'm just giving you information. If you do want to do it, we would need to make a decision probably in the next 2 meetings so we can get it taken care of and installed before the holiday season. All right. The next item, USIC. That's the company that you see around town doing, marking the gas lines and power lines and stuff. People want to put in the fence, they do the locates for them. They're, let's see, here's what it said, right. He's in their business development. He stopped me one day and wanted to know who did the locates for the town. I said, well, I did, you know. And he said that they would like to come and give you a proposal about doing the locates for the town also, because they're doing them for Dayton for these other utilities. I'm not here to persuade you to do that, and I'm not here to persuade you not to do it. I do have this, just so we put it in perspective. Each year we get a thing from Indiana 811, and because we get charged every time the locate's called in, the town pays for that. And I was a bit surprised, and this is for 2018. In 2018, there were 492 locates called into the town homes. Yeah. And there's probably even more this year. Of course, I got like 50 or 60 of them early in the winter when they were doing these gas lines. We usually don't get too many that year. I would say on average, I do every week. I'd say that's about right, 8 of them a week. Some weeks more, some weeks less. It takes me about an hour to do each one. Probably out of the week, it takes me a day to do the locates. I have no idea what they charge for it. But just to give you some type of measuring stick about what time it takes for us. But he's wanting to come give a presentation. It's not, like I said, I'm not trying to sell his product, and it doesn't matter to me if it gets to be too much, I'll let you know. But if you'd like for him to come in here and give you a number, show you what they do, that's fine.
So you're saying the gas company, we're paying for their locates?
Well, no, every time that a locate is called in within the town limits of Dayton, we get charged. They pay for theirs. We pay, because we've got utilities in here, so the gas company pays every time, the power company, Mulberry Telephone, Dayton Water and Sewer, everybody pays in to this kitty every time it's called in. Yeah.
That guy's got to come out, okay.
Yeah. And a lot of times, the problem is they'll call them in, and then they don't do the project, and then a month later they call them in again, you know. Of course, by then the paint's gone, the flags are pulled, but they want to mow the yard, so you go back and do it again.
Those gas flags are up there all winter.
Yeah. So,
Cheaper than fixing your utility lines.
Yeah, especially for gas and electric, it's a lot cheaper for them to pay to have locates than it is something.
so, you know, I really, it doesn't matter to me, but I need to respond to them and say, not at this time, or tell them, yes.
I think we just want that, we want them to do that, so I'm saying until that break.
That's fine, and that's fine, you know, I'm not, like I said, he came to me, so I wasn't hunting him down. But I'll just tell him, you know, not at this time, but we'll keep you in mind. If it, I think the concern will be is if it grows too much, you know, we're just not enough time in the day to get it done.
I'd be interested to know what they do charge.
Yeah.
Because if you spend a day on it, right?
Yeah, so that's saying that I probably spend, so a day on, I spend $200 a week on. You know, if they'll do it for less than that, you know. might be worth it. I'll just ask them, say, can you give us just give me a ballpark number of what my cost, maybe it's per locate or something, and that way we can have an idea. So you might have seen the next item on the news, about the wind farm ordinance that the county passed. So I checked with area plan because I saw that you can opt in or opt out of it. So I'm just gonna read this to you. This is their response because I thought the town would need to take some kind of action on it.
We already voted on this last month.
You did?
Yeah, we had used our ordinance to it,
So that the town,
is unified ordinance with Tippecanoe County.
okay, well, good.
And in the town, there's nowhere, well, almost in all Tippecanoe County, there's not too many places where they have the setbacks big enough for the ones they're banning. It's not all of them, it's just the ones that are like above 140 feet, so like 600, I guess the new ones are 600 feet, and the setback and the
1,000-foot setback.
Yeah, 1,000-foot setbacks, and
Well, they don't have that, so the acceptance of it, so we need to get something to them saying that it was passed at the May meeting or whatever that was. Was it in the May minutes?
it was just,
So we need to let them know, I guess is what I'm saying, because they aren't aware of it at this time, so. Did you? Okay. Well, even though you signed it, you still have to send it back or do something.
We have,
Either
Tim,
Reed or Michelle.
Yeah.
you know, you can call it Michelle on that.
Yep, absolutely.
So what do you call that, a unified?
so you could find,
Zoning
Okay, the last item is for a good 2 months, we've been trying to find some help. We couldn't find anybody that fit that description, everyone, because what we were looking for was someone who would eventually turn out to be a long-term employee of the town. We hoped that they would get their water license and some other things. It just hasn't been successful, I think primarily because it's just a part-time position. It's hard to find people, especially when there's so much work around. So, I have a couple projects I'd like to get done in town. One is getting the curbs painted. The second one is clean up the brush out at the metering station on the other side of 65. And I found a gentleman who will do that for the $15 an hour that we were offered for the other position. If he works out in that scenario, then I'd like for him to take over the mowing for me. Pretty much what Andrew was doing previously, but Andrew got a job, so now I'm picking up that stuff. It's Steve Frewer. I think he'll do a good job for us. And I'd like him to do those 2 projects first before, and I'll just keep on until he gets those projects done, and then he can take over the mowing and do all the work stuff. All right with you guys.
Any motion for that or anything?
Never have a motion.
Make a motion that we hire Steve Stewart to work part-time.
Motion is second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
So I'll go ahead and get the thing ordered for that, so we can start on as soon as possible.
Safety yellow.
Yeah. Any questions about anything?
All right, comments from the residents, South Utility.
We talked about this at the utility meeting, Cindy Marsh, 749 Shady Lane. This is beating a dead horse, but I just want to go on record as saying I think it's reprehensible that you're letting outside developers, and that's what you are, come in here and run roughshod over our religious institution that's a pillar of our community and has done a lot for this town. That the easement that you're trying to force on them is only supposed to go to the town limits. And I understand that the facts that David talked about many meetings ago and that I talked about last meeting, that that was sent to Reed today. And that easement, or that fax makes it clear, was from Mike Smith, that easement was intended to go only to the town limits. It is not outside the town limits. And it's a 15-foot easement. The sample utility service agreement in the town's development guide says the owner developer shall provide all on-site easements necessary to provide utility, water and sewer service at no cost to the town of Dayton. It doesn't say every parcel of land that the developer owns has to be provided with the utilities.
Anybody else?
Steve Shuley, 7315 Wesleyan Drive. I just have a question about the other utilities going out to the development. You know, cable, power, and that kind of stuff. Will that be buried, will be in the poles? Do we know?
Water and sewer, Mary, I don't know about the rest of it.
The rest is dependent on the public utility.
Just asking, not that I have one or the other, it's nice to have that stuff buried so we're not all looking at a ton of wires hanging from
Yeah,
things. And I
that's
know with the
totally
winds that cut across that space.
You'd think a gas line would be buried.
Oh, that's an obvious one, but, you know, things like cable, TV, internet.
Yeah, that's all dictated on no one.
Mulberry,
The electric company will decide that.
on that side of the track, you know, Mulberry has all their fiber optic
Right.
buried. And I can't speak for them, but I would think that they would
Just
continue that fiber optic.
I just wondered,
that area.
like I said, I like it very because it's more attractive plus we don't lose power as much as a lot of areas where it's all hanging in the poles.
Overhead, is the power already overhead? I'm assuming most of that's already passed there.
A lot of their poles
Down
running.
to the
they're on
church.
bottom.
Yeah.
The
Is
overhead
it
lines.
overhead to the church?
I would guess it would stay overhead and just probably put in transformers on it, yes, for electric, everything else.
There's
everything.
no overhead past the church, like to those other houses and stuff, like the farms?
The line
I think it
going
comes from
down,
that direction.
there's a couple.
We'll probably extend whatever they have now. If they have overhead now, they'll probably extend overhead if they have underground.
Yes, utilities company put them underground from the tracks down to the church years ago. But they said it cost
Yeah,
$20,000.
they don't like the power.
You have anything on that, Pat? You don't?
The only thing I was gonna say is all utilities within the development will be underground. But I can't tell
You
you
can't say
about
what's happening.
the deliveries to the site.
The other resident?
Gordon Hardy back, 7701 Adams Road. I brought up to this board at least twice, I've given you numerous copies of things from Mr. Wolf and IDEM. I haven't heard any, you guys are talking about easements going this way. I haven't heard one thing about water going over the hill. Nobody said anything about, has stormwater been done? So we don't know, because with what I've got, and I've all handed you people that, it says there should be an outlet to this, that needs an easement to go all the way to the creek, because water, ask Ashley how much water you got in your backyard. How much water you got?
Yes, what?
Wet, grass is this high, you can't mow it, I don't expect you to mow it. But if they take 40% of that up there and put it under hard service, as in roofs, concrete, streets, driveways, how much more water do you think will come over? No, nobody is, I haven't heard nothing. Mark's been nice to tell me if he's heard something, they don't tell him nothing. And I worry about them starting on this when they can't get rid of the water. Because I can't let them flood my property. I mean, and like he's a polo bar down there, and that's fine, that's valuable. But it ain't valuable like a home. His home's clear up here, There's water everywhere down there now, with all, and what happens if it gets worse?
I understand, and Michelle can explain it better. I mean, she just had to go through with the Dollar General because they didn't do theirs right, and then come back and do it. But
I'm watching it, honestly, nothing has been submitted, or I will tell Marcus when something, they haven't resubmitted. So
Yeah.
they're still working on the plan, but based on Tippecanoe County's drainage ordinance, there will be less water that comes down that hill than does right now. I'm not saying that right now is not a problem, I'm saying that they have to detain and keep on site more water than they can release. So it will get better. I'm not saying it will fix every problem,
But
it
the
will
one
get better.
soil sample, and I'm gonna call it the northeast corner, per Mr. Wolf, you know, there's three kinds of,
Yeah, and that's one of the review
and
comments.
that
they
one
have
is
to-
not
they have to-
made,
Yeah.
that's the wrong kind of soil for that. So if any of them's gonna run over, that one's gonna run
Well,
over.
that's the thing, is, that's why I said they haven't resubmitted yet. There were numerous
Yeah.
comments about they need more soil borings, and their engineer needs to prove that this will work for retention or detention, or whatever they're planning, or infiltration, whatever they're planning on doing, and we don't have that information yet. So it's not that the board is keeping anything from
Yeah.
us. It's
Well,
that
I just
they're
wish I
still
would
working
hear
through the
once in a
process.
while, because
Yeah.
I'm retired, everybody else down there works. And I went around yesterday and asked him, said, do you care if I bring this up? Oh, no, have you heard anything? I said, I ain't heard a thing.
No, and we haven't either. We have not, Pat, when was the last time you guys?
And you know,
I honestly don't know.
Yeah, okay. It's been a while. They have not resubmitted since that last
Mr.
time.
Crandall sat up here when he asked about going together with it, when they were talking here a couple meetings ago. And his exact words were, no, we don't want to go with you because we have our own water problems. Do you guys remember him saying that? I do. And that's what worries me. I mean, we got houses, I got daughters, I've got neighbors, and there's water everywhere. I mean, I got water on my property now.
Well,
He's got water, everybody got water.
everybody got water right
You know,
I
and if you add 40% to it,
Roy, I talked to Lapis about 3 weeks ago, and I asked him that question, how's the stormwater coming? And he said that the way he understands it, it'd all be cleared up within by that Friday, so that's been a while, but he said that the water shed off of there would be 15% less than what it is now, or 15% of what it is now.
now. The Tippecanoe County ordinance is strict.
And I said, well, that'd be a pretty good trick, if you could do, that'd be great if you
Well, that's what the ponds are for. So right now, it just sheet flows wherever it wants to go. It's just open
Yeah.
land. And farm ground, actually, you get a lot of runoff from farmland. When you put in houses, yes, you're adding more pavement, but you're also adding lawns. And lawns, grass soaks up a lot more
well,
water than farmland. The runoff
then,
numbers are better.
then
they're-
crops,
Yeah.
and corn,
Yes.
and beans.
Yes, because those plants are every so often, and you have dirt in between each row.
But I think he's concerned, right up here, we're talking about cleaning our stormwater ditches and everything.
Yeah.
And the other day, that's gushing as fast as it can roll, and it's in a
But
pipe
if you,
this
Big,
big, you
and it
know.
would-
And it's going through Deerfield and all that, that's got all the grass and
but these
all
have
that.
all these ponds to slow it down, and they have small pipes releasing that. You're not gonna have a 48-inch pipe coming out of any of these ponds that I've seen. You're gonna have 12-inch pipes that are
I
gonna hold it
just
back.
worry about it.
And I can't
You know,
answer the
running over
question,
the top,
because we
because
don't
if it
have.
runs over the top, it's coming our way.
Yeah,
Well, it runs over the top now.
But yeah.
it just flows. There's nothing stopping it now.
And to be honest, his land's the worst. Then my neighbors and then mine. I mean, if we're gonna get right down to it.
Yeah.
But,
And that's what
but
we're here
he's a
for.
pole barn down there. My neighbor's got a house, a $500,000 house. You know, if his house was down there, he'd be yelling top his lungs.
I understand. I live in a valley. I get you.
You know, and I just wanna make sure, we don't wanna wait until it's already flooded, and then what do you do?
There's nothing, yeah, then you have problems.
Then you have problems.
Then it will be looked at, and it will be.
Gordon, I've been told that
Protect you.
that 6 acres is green space. You know, I keep hearing that.
It ain't green space, it's
You know,
water.
the developers put that green space over there next to my property. And you're saying that that's.
It's water.
Yeah, it's flooded, it's a.
Well,
it's
It's
that
it's a
deep.
swamp, yeah.
It's 3 acres, there's nothing but woods and a hillside like this, there's not a, there will be no green space.
So water gets
So it's not
over the edge,
buildable?
it comes straight down.
It's buildable, you can build, you build out on cliffs.
And then once the green space gets full, then it goes to his yard. Then when his yard gets full, then it goes to my neighbor's, then it goes to mine. So it just keeps going. I just wanna make sure it's done correctly.
Michelle, have they said, do you have any time limit, or? when that will be
Time
done?
limit, they
When
can,
he's done, I will.
Okay.
they can,
You know,
but
because,
it will be reviewed, and I will let, and the board's not keeping anything for you, we don't have.
well, I just
We
wanna,
have no new information.
I know at one time I was told I need to talk to him, and he's been very nice, but I haven't heard, and he hadn't heard anything. So that's why I'm up here. I wanna ask and see, and I appreciate you. That's what I know, at least to talk to somebody, see what's going on, nothing.
As soon as the day they submit, I will send Mark an email, and he can let you know.
Well, yeah, I know, and we talk, and that's
Yeah.
fine. I just wanna make sure.
And
I mean, I don't wanna wait until too late.
Yeah. And Doug Wolf has asked for a copy of the resubmittal too.
Because he has told
He
me,
will be involved,
he
yes.
said that,
I
you know,
know.
we
He's
want,
contacted me
you
too.
wanna make it the best that you can without going stupid, you know, and I said, I agree. But that's what I want to know. Because nobody said nothing, we're talking about all this other stuff. If they end up saying they gotta run a tile, they gotta get easements across 3 or 4 properties, and that, now since Bub's died, or tell them what's gonna happen. Which is the landowner that owns all that, or dead, and then give it away. So, all right, thank you.
Right, you wanna-
I dearly love these meetings. We are in the process of finalizing the designs on the storm sewer, and then we will be submitting it back to Michelle. One reason that we haven't, because I want to meet with you, Ashley, I want to meet with you.
Pat, I think you said storm sewer.
Did I say storm sewer?
Yes.
Well, storm water.
Storm.
This is stormwater detention, the stormwater management program for the development. So you're clear on what I'm talking about? All right. Sometimes I get up and not clear what I'm talking about. So anyway, what I want to do after we submit to Michelle is then have a meeting with you and Mr. Baumgartner, is that right?
Hardyback.
Hardebeck.
And you should add one more to it, sir.
Well, I know, I was going to talk with Ashley to see who we need to be talking to.
No,
And so we will have a meeting with you folks before we meet with the board. And then we will meet with the board. That way you are informed so that when I come and meet with the board and request the approval, and at which time Michelle will have reviewed and been giving you a recommendation at that point. She's not ready to give a recommendation because we haven't submitted back to her with certain requests that she has about the project. So then we will meet with you, we will take you through the stormwater management program and what we're doing. And then we will come to the board, take you through the stormwater management program and what we're doing, and ask for your approval of the grant, based upon the recommendation also of your staff or your consultant. And naturally, if she's not approving it, we won't be here, because there's no point in doing that. So that's the process. I wanted to be here before now. In fact, I wanted to meet with you folks before this, well, actually before the meeting the other night. And, but you met Andy, who was here the other evening. I don't think you met him. But he's not quite ready. And quite frankly, I'm not happy with it. But that's where we are. And so we will be making a submittal fairly soon to your consultant. And then I will be meeting with you folks. And then we're done with.
So you're gonna meet with all the downstream property owners? Is
Yes,
that what
I
you're
am.
saying?
Yes, I am.
You said Ashley and him, but,
No, I said, and
yeah.
he
okay.
mentioned somebody else, and I said, I will work with
I just
Ashley
wanted
to
to put
determine.
that phrase in there.
Right.
We're gonna meet with all the downstream
Right.
property owners.
That's correct. That's correct. And then we'll come in here and meet with the toughies. Well, I don't know, I think this guy right here probably might know. Anyway.
Would you like a list of the downstream
You
landowners?
can, hey, sure, if you have a list, make sure we're getting everybody. We have a
The only
requirement.
person that ain't on there is Ashley.
Oh, well, we don't want him there anyway. I'm teasing.
I understand.
So that's our procedure at this point. I am banging on Andy's head, and hopefully we'll have something here within the next week or so. That's been frustrating for me too.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Jennifer Nagle, 625 Harrison Circle. I just had a question. I remember, I don't know when it was, but Michelle had given us a list of like 64 things that needed to be worked on. So I just wondered why we were in such a hurry to put everything on one side of the road. You said that you were in a hurry because you thought that it would take too long for Ron and Cindy to work something out with you. But like, what about the other 63 things? Like, wouldn't that give you time instead of putting?
So the comments were, they're working through that, but, part of where it ends up going, before they can address all those comments, they need to know where physically the pipe is going. So if the easement can't go there, or if it's on one side or another, there's no reason for them to submit until they kind of worked out the easement thing. So the easement then got pushed to the front, is what I understand. There's really, it's hard to design if you don't know where you're going. And part of those comments were, I needed more detail on the design of that line, but they didn't know where it was going. So, you know, that all has to kind of be worked out together. And I'm taking it, the easements was gonna take a long time, so they started that as soon as they could. So it's not, that's what he's talking about submitting, is the new set of plans that addresses all those comments. And one of those was moving with the downstream and stuff like that, so they are working through those.
Anyone else? Tammy? All right. Ron?
Motion adjourned.
Motion second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
All right.
Motion carried.
When you're ready. Dayton Town Council meeting is now in session. I'd like to ask for approval of the town board minutes for May 13th, 2019.
Make a motion to approve town board minutes, May 13th, 2019.
Second.
Motion made, properly seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Also like to ask for approval of the town board minutes for the meeting May 28th, 2019.
Make a motion to approve the town board minutes from May 28th, 2019.
Motion made, properly seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Approval of the claims docket, June 10th. Any questions on that?
Make a motion to approve the claims docket from June 10th, 2019.
Second.
There's been a motion made, properly seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Allowance docket for May 1st to May 31st, 2019. Any questions?
Make a motion to approve the allowance docket from May 1st through May 31st, 2019.
There's been a motion made, properly seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Approval of the revenue report, 5/31/2019.
Motion to approve the revenue report for May 31st, 2019.
Been a motion made, properly seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Approval of the appropriations report, May 31st, 2019.
Make a motion to approve the appropriations report, May 31st, 2019.
Second.
There's been a motion made, properly seconded, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Bank reconciliation, February 2019 to March 2019, April 2019.
Make a motion we approve the bank reconciliation report, February, March, and April of 2019.
Been a motion made, properly seconded, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Clerk treasurer report for the town hall.
The only thing I have is we have now started filing mowing violation liens. So we did file 2 of them last week, Conjunction Street and Clifty Falls. And then I have claims docket from May that Michelle wanted me to bring out. I guess we never received the signed copy back, so she's wanting to get that re-signed this evening.
I'm sorry, what was it?
The claims docket from May. We never received back the signed copy. So I don't know if somebody still has it or.
Do you have another one you guys will sign? Can we sign it for the clerk treasurer report?
Yep, there is it. That's all I have.
Town attorney.
All right. Tiger versus Dayton lawsuit. Have a settlement agreement. It is 3 pages, and I'm going to read every word. Settlement agreement and release. The settlement agreement and release agreement is entered into by and between plaintiffs, Stanley Kiger and Susan Kiger, plaintiffs, and defendant, town of Dayton, Indiana, acting by and through its town council, defendant. With each also referred to occasionally herein as party or collectively as parties, with each party represented by counsel. Parties hereby stipulate as follows. Whereas on October 4th, 2018, plaintiffs filed a complaint in the Tippecanoe County Circuit Court, cause number 7902, 1801 MI 215. And whereas in their complaint, plaintiffs alleged deficiencies related to Ordinance 18-5. Alleged that defendant violated Indiana Code 3652-5, 5-14-1.5-2. Whereas defendant denies that it violated any part of the Indiana Code, denies that plaintiffs are entitled to any of the relief which they seek in their complaint. And whereas parties desire to enter into this agreement to settle amicably all differences between them, to resolve this matter without the continued expense of time and money, to avoid the uncertainties of continued litigation. Now, therefore, consideration of the foregoing and the following, the parties agree as follows. The defendant will post the agenda of each public meeting held by defendant at the entryway to the meeting location prior to such meeting prior to such meeting being held in accordance with Indiana Code 5-14-1.52. B, file ordinance 18-5 in its ordinance book within 10 days of the execution of this agreement. C, take the appropriate steps to correct the reference in ordinance 18-5, stating that it amends chapter 32 of the Code of Ordinances to correctly state that it amends chapter 37 of the Code of Ordinances. And D, update its internet website to include ordinance 18-5 within 30 days of being advised by American Legal Publishing Corporation that the codification of the 2018 ordinances is complete. Plaintiffs will dismiss with prejudice the entire matter pending under cause number 79B02 1810 MI 215. Plaintiffs fully release defendant, defendant's representatives, officials, employees, agents, or any other person or entity acting on behalf of defendant from any and all claims, demands, losses, costs, or causes of action related to or arising from the passage of ordinance 18-5 and or the events that are the subject of the complaint filed on October 4th, 2018 as cause number 79D02 1810 MI 215. Plaintiffs represent and warn that to the extent negotiations and agreements have been made These negotiations and agreements are merged into this settlement agreement, which now represents the only agreement and contract between the parties. Plaintiffs acknowledge that no representation, promise, or inducement whatsoever not contained herein has been made to them or their attorney, and that this agreement is executed without reliance on any statement or representation by the released parties. The parties, with the assistance of their attorneys, have fully evaluated the merits of claims and the defenses asserted, and it is their belief and conclusion that the compromise and settlement accomplished by this agreement are in their best interest. Parties understand that by executing this agreement, they are foregoing the right to have a court determine any of the legal claims and or defenses as to any claims that the parties have or may have against one another arising out of the events alleged in cause number 79D02-1810 MI-215. Agreement is not an admission of liability on the part of any party thereto, and is in full accord and satisfaction of any and all disputed claims. Parties will each be responsible for all their respective debts of any nature, including but not limited to attorney fees and costs that they have incurred relating in any way to cause number 0701-1307 PL28. Parties agree that the laws of the state of Indiana shall govern this agreement. Parties agree that this agreement was prepared by and is the joint effort of the parties to negotiations, and that any ambiguity, uncertainty, or vagueness in the construction and interpretation of this agreement shall not be attributed to the plaintiffs or the defendant. And the theory of construction that a document should be construed against the party drafting the document is waived and will not be applied in construing this agreement. So, settlement agreement and release is entered into this day of June 2019. So, what we need to do is, in regard to C, taking appropriate steps to correct reference ordinance 18-5. We're not going to actually amend the ordinance because there were filing deadlines that had to be completed that were already done. So that ordinance was passed in 2018 and was filed with the Tiffany County Clerk. So what we need to do is have an oral amendment made today by voice vote, and then we're going to document that in the minutes. And we're in the process of submitting, it's called S6 to American Legal Publishing. So that basically is the latest version of our town code. They have the information that they need to make that correction. So the town website will be updated with the corrected information as soon as that S6 supplement is completed by American Legal Publishing. It's my recommendation. So, I'm not, and represented the town in the litigation matter. I've been working with insurance counsel who drafted the agreement, but that's certainly my recommendation to vote today to allow the town council president to sign the agreement. That way we can get this finalized. There might be some small changes that we need, but that way we don't have to come back to have another vote. So really those are the two things that we need to accomplish if you guys want to do that today. The legal effect of the settlement agreement will be that the lawsuit will be dismissed, and everything that was done will just continue on like there was no lawsuit.
So the amendment basically is correcting the reference that was made in the ordinance.
It's basically correcting a typo.
The typo.
Yeah. So the number 37 was
32. It was 32, and it should have been 37 or some such
right.
thing.
Right. So I think we were trying to pass an election ordinance
Right.
affecting the wards, So that was, when the ordinance was drafted, it just referred to the wrong section of the code. It didn't refer to the ward chapter, it referred to.
That cross the right T and not the right I.
Right.
So you need to.
So any questions on the settlement agreement first?
Need a motion, sir.
Yeah, so first we need a motion to correct ordinance 18-5.
Make a motion that we correct ordinance 18-5.
Second?
Motion. Yeah, so stating that it amends chapter 32 of the Code of Ordinances to correctly state that it amends chapter 37 of the Code of Ordinances. It's,
To correct, to remove the reference to chapter 32 and correct it to 37.
correct, yeah.
You know that, Tammy?
Yes.
Okay. Is it?
Second.
So there's been a motion made and properly seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Need a motion to okay him to sign.
Correct. To approve the town to enter into this settlement and then authorize the town council president to sign the settlement agreement on the town council's behalf.
You made a motion? Second.
There's been a motion made and properly seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
No.
Any other town attorney business?
Yes. The other pending lawsuit, which the last time that we discussed this, there was, so this is the Coalition and Cindy March lawsuit against the town of Dayton, where there was an appeal in the Court of Appeals that was denied, and then the plaintiffs in that case filed a petition to transfer, asking for the Supreme Court to hear the case, and the town of Dayton filed a response to the petition to transfer, and the Supreme Court decided to not grant transfer. So the effect of that is just the end of the case, so that matter is closed.
Is there any other town attorney business?
Probably Michelle question. Have we, I assume we incurred more legal expense defending ourselves on that last motion.
Yeah, so, I believe that we approved, so we looked at whether there was any insurance coverage or not, and approved Paul Eggleston to file that response, and they submitted an invoice for that work that I know Michelle has received, and I don't know the status of that, but there was no additional work other than that invoice. I know that there was less than $2,500, that's what we were looking at. $2,500 was the deductible, so I think it was around $2,100. But
Yeah, it's turned into insurance.
no, we asked the carrier to cover us, and they denied the claim. And so we did not have any coverage, and we didn't pursue that because of the timing of it, because Paul Eggleston already had to do the work. So if it had gone on, we could have,
Well, how do they cover the other lawsuit that don't cover this one? It seems like you'd have a writer in there that would cover them all.
they sent like a 5-page explanation as to why.
Well, I mean, if you have insurance coverage, they should, if you have,
The main reason is that the actions that the town took before it notified the insured. So I think what happened was, at the trial court level, while Eggleston provided some legal defense, it didn't bill you anything outside of their regular plan. So that was viewed by the insurance as a decision to defend yourself, and that saved the town some money at the time, but the longer that goes on, sometimes the insurance won't cover you because they're not able to handle it.
we should have turned it over to them originally, probably.
So,
So to handle it all.
yeah, possibly, but that was one of the central reasons, but there were multiple reasons, and possibly we would have been able to actually argue that we've been able to get coverage, because our current policy allows, allows for claims that are occurring now but happened before, but it was the gray area and they denied it, so. Ashley, was there anything else you had on your
I
list?
was wondering if you had an update on annexation and also the TIF district.
Right, so with the TIP district, we have a list of information. Once we have a redevelopment commission together, that we will need to get to Ice Miller. So I'll have 10 questions, so that's really the next step. And I just haven't sent it on to Todd yet. And it's one thing that I just haven't had time to follow up until recently. But everything is ready from the legal side to be put into motion as soon as the town council is ready to move forward with the redevelopment commission.
So you'll get that information to Ty, and then you can.
The main thing is the selection of appointees. So remember, it's
It's 5 people.
5 people. 3 would be appointed by the town council president, and 2 would be appointed by the town council. So that's really what we need to do before we can really take any action. I mean, even deciding in certain terms what the TIF area will be, like that's a redevelopment commission determination.
Oh, okay, I see.
On that, what are the stipulations for people? They have to be Dayton residents, do we have to have a school board person? Because I thought at one point he mentioned a school board person, or is that if it was an economic development fund, not a redevelopment commission?
School board is an additional member, so there's actually 6 people, but they're a non-voting member. So you also will appoint that person as technically as
And they have to be citizens of the town and everything,
right. So the person who would do it on the school board, I think, is kind of set by state law and the school board. So, and then subject to your approval. So yeah, I mean, I certainly think that it would be best to have Dayton residents, and other than that,
Can it be like if the town votes in the 5 members of the council, can it be the 5 members of the council because they
the law allows
voted
it.
them in?
The law allows that, yes.
Okay,
That doesn't have to be.
right.
You don't have to. So you can have some of the town council members on there, or you can have no town council members
Because
on there.
I was told before that you can't have town council members on there. It had to be private citizens that reported to us as a committee. But I don't know if that would get in an economic
I think-
development committee instead of a redevelopment
At
committee.
least 2 council members with the rest.
I think that, so, you look at some of the other jurisdictions, I think, we've had people from Lafayette Development Commission talk, there's West Lafayette Redevelopment Commission. I believe that they have independent appointees. And I think that was what you but the law does allow the town council just to serve as those 5 people if they want to. So it's really decision.
Do you know any, when we started this, Umball was gonna charge 15,000, and then a meeting or two ago, we found out this Ice Miller is gonna do another 15, up to 15,000. Is there any other things coming up that is gonna be, like, what do you anticipate your work doing? Are you talking about several thousand, working all this with the council and all this, or? 'Cause
Yeah, so just to clarify, the last time we discussed this, we went through the same question, and I said that my guess would be 25 to 30,000 total between Ice Miller, me, and Umball. There was always gonna be legal work involved. I mean, there's 15,000 without any, it was just an accounting firm, was never an option. I mean, you guys always knew that I was gonna be involved at, there would be attorney fees involved. The main difference was, my recommendation and, just the need to have Ice Miller. So, it's still 25 to 30 for all those three, my services, Ice Miller, and Umball.
On the annexation portion, where are we on that?
Yeah, that's gonna only take effect January 1, so, I think, our focus has been on the TIP district first, but, we'll probably put those into motion at the same time. But there's, I think, a lot less involved, with that, depending on, the interest of the property owners, but I think, Umball has kind of done some work and could probably speak to that.
My whole concern is, we know that some property at the interstate's been sold, okay, and for a truck dealership to build on. And, I keep hearing that that's coming this fall, okay, this, late summer, fall time period, and I just want to make sure that, legally, we have things in place where, they can be included in the TIF area and such.
Yeah, so that was one thing that, I did get some clarification from Heather at Ice Miller, so we just need to get the TIP district set up in this year, and we'll be able to collect anything for January 1 of 19.
Okay.
So, it's important to keep going.
Yeah.
But we don't necessarily have to get everything done before that happens. But we need, there's a lot of steps with public meetings and all that has to get done, so we just have to make sure we're on schedule for getting it done this year.
Well, and I don't know the time schedule that needs to happen, but I just don't want to miss opportunities.
Yeah.
So I'd be ashamed if that was to happen. So,
Yes, I agree, we need to move forward as quickly as we can.
yeah. Thank you.
Marshall, please report.
Any questions on the statistical data submitted for last month? Okay. We abated or had mowed 4 properties last month in the town of Dayton. That was what Tammy was referring to on the, she had filed the weed liens, her office had filed the weed liens down at county. On 2 of those, where the contractors had submitted bills, I think we're still waiting on bill for 2 others that we did. Just an update on ordinance enforcement. We issued 31 warnings on ordinances last month. We did issue 3 citations in relation to those 4 properties that we ended up having to abate. These are all properties where the owners are out of state, out of town, abandoned or otherwise been managed by a property management company, which we got no responses, so we were forced to go in and mow those. My plan on those is probably to do it once a month, unless council has an idea they'd like it done more often, or catch-22. If you wait a month, it might take more effort for them to mow it as if they mowed it more often. So I really don't have an opinion on it. I just figured once a month was sufficient. We'd at least be getting it knocked down. But if you have other ideas on that or prefer it done another way, I really don't have a preference.
Your discretion and at what point it becomes out of compliance.
And generally, it takes a month for it to get noticeable enough to where it's obvious that we got to do something. I mentioned a couple of months ago that we were under an IDAX audit. Technically, the whole county or the sheriff's department is under an IDAX audit, and all the police agencies that are under their umbrella, and Dayton is one of those. Just kind of a review, we pay for an IDAX coordinator for Dayton. That is actually the 911 supervisor and dispatch coordinator for the Tippecanoe County Sheriff's Department, Susan Corselius. We contract with her for $2,500 a year to make sure that we are up to date and following all the rules and regulations as set forth by IDAX. IDAX is the Indiana Data Communication System. Also, along with that is NCIC, a lot of abbreviations, but that's the National Crime Information Center. And what that is the flow and the network of information that we use to run driver's licenses, obtain criminal records checks. And basically the whole purpose of having that audit is to protect people's privacy and abuse of the system. There's a lot of responsibility on having access to that information. As you can imagine, we can run into anybody's information, their driver's license, their vehicles. So there's a lot of procedures put in place to guard against that. We did pass the audit, so that tells me that Susan's looking out for Dayton's best interests and doing the job that we're coordinating and paying for her to do. So we didn't have any red flags or anything. Nobody was abusing the system. Nothing was discovered during that audit in regards to the Dayton Police Department. So just FYI on that. Next point I had, I'm going to authorize our crossing guard to assist the Presbyterian Church with their Vacation Bible School during that week. Just to let you know, if you see her out there in the middle of summer, you wonder what she's doing. That's what she will be doing. That's basically all I had. There was some discussion about the noise ordinance.
Right, yeah,
I
so,
sent that to Mr. Murtaugh to look into.
yeah, and I think Tammy is ready to submit it to vote as soon as possible, but I just was not able to basically take the draft that we have and turn it into a finalized version of the ordinance that can be adopted, and so that's kind of where that stands, but
Just next month or so.
next month, yeah.
Sounds good. Sorry.
Thank you.
Good work.
Miscellaneous new business, new old business.
Community crossroad grants. So last time, we were not able to submit for community crossroads or be under consideration. We had a couple projects lined up to submit, and I'd like to, project number 1 and project number 3, we'd like to move forward with that. Yeah, I just got 2 copies. It's the same, rod and ties were the same days when we did the drug run the other day, so. So project number 1 would be grind and repave and add sidewalks to Harrison in Pennsylvania. Project number 3 would be the microseal and crack seal, and that would be on Ricks Market, College Conjunction, and Prairie Lane. So those, we already have the paperwork done up. We paid VS Engineering to do our community crossroads grant last time. So there wouldn't be any further cost to us for these project number 1 and project number 3. We were looking at doing Dayton Road, which is referred to as project number 2. And some things have changed on Dayton Road since this was initiated. And Mark and I have a meeting with Milestone Contractors on Thursday to look at Dayton Road. So this project number 2, we were going to basically rebuild the east side of Dayton Road from city limits to the Clifty Falls intersection, and then repave the other side. So the east side's in real bad shape. The west side is in pretty good shape. Keep in mind, this was all started back in February or so of this year. So the long story short is we need to do more on Dayton Road than just that one area. That one area represents about $90,000 worth of work. So Mark and I are going to meet with Milestone on Thursday. We have some areas on Dayton Road that are south of State Road 38 here that have deteriorated rather quickly. And so, long story short, after Milestone's out here, I'll have more information on that. And maybe we can not do such extensive work on North Dayton Road, and maybe do more of a patch rather than reconstruct. That's freeing up money to do some patchwork on Dayton Road South. And then also, we have 2 other projects that we need to add to community crossings. And, so I'm trying to take that 90,000 and kind of stretch it out and basically patch some areas rather than rebuild. So the areas that we would add to this community crossing would be, Dayton Road to the south, not do as extensive work on Dayton Road North, and then we would add the paving on Shady Lane, where the 2 S-curves are that we talked about here last couple of meetings, and also paving the court on Prairie Lane Court. And that's the one where the fire hydrant is currently in the middle of the court. We move it, dig out that grass area, put gravel in there, and repave that court.
And did you talk to her again?
She and I are meeting again this week. Yes.
Her biggest concern, once again, Mark, I've kind of talked to you about that, is the placement of that fire hydrant if it's moved. She doesn't feel that it's going to allow enough room for her property, and she has other concerns about leakage. If it were to leak, what effect it would have on her property, the underground, causing any problems with the driveway, potholes or sinkhole type situation with that driveway. I know that Mark didn't want to go straight across to Edwards' place. And there was a problem with the fire department putting it up in her yard.
If we moved it to the south, those money increased costs significantly.
Right.
For a couple of different reasons, and one was the recommendation from Alpine flush.
And that would be in the middle of the court also.
I'm sorry, it would be what?
Well, the flush valve he's talking about would be in the middle of the court.
Where the hydrant is now.
She didn't know if it was something where he'd leave it in the middle of that cul-de-sac or that would be a cul-de-sac and put a post around it to.
If you're gonna do that, you just might as well leave it the way it is now, but, there again, it's, it all goes back to, having streets, roads in the town that are uniform and conducive to, you know, the town to do business in and such. You know, I was over there, 2 or 3 weeks ago and, you know, trying to catch the lady at home and, you know, the lawn care people were there and they got the whole thing blocked off, you know, just with cutting grass.
Yeah, they did that when I was there too, I just backed out and went the other way, but
Well, sure,
Yeah.
yeah, so.
either here or there, I understand that we might plow snow down there once or twice a year. I don't know, I just think you really should talk to her
Yeah,
and
this week.
understand her.
She and I talked Sunday, and I was out down on the road driving, and so, you know, it was kind of a short conversation, and we agreed that we'd talk this week.
What are the Edwards saying?
I don't think they
Yeah,
really
they're
fair
fine
one
with
way or
it.
the other.
What about the other neighbor that's right across?
I don't,
She lives here, Edwards live here, and there's that brown house right there.
I don't think they've even been,
I've spoke to them.
What are their thoughts?
They really aren't that concerned about it, you know.
Their driveway is before that court.
Yeah, and they had, one of the suggestions whenever I was meeting with homeowners was not moving it over towards that lift station. That's over towards his property. The only problem is you get too much stacked up in there. You've got electrical, forced main, gravity main, and water. You just don't want to do that. An area that's 20 by 40 at best.
So on this, you know, the CCG submission is coming up here real short. A couple of projects we've already essentially paid for as far as the, you know, the paperwork to submit it to the state through DS Engineering. You know, we're gonna have a little bit more cost, you know, to add the shady lane, to add the, you know, changes on Dayton Road and such. So I anticipate that to be less than $1,000. You know, I don't really know, but I don't think it'll be much in the big scheme of things. But
on the Shady Lane, project, that's just, we're just gonna go in there and
yeah,
do the curve.
yeah. So what VS Engineering does is they put everything into the format that the state wants to see. You know, you know, feet and tons and all this stuff of each of these. And, you know, that way when the state, you know, when they review things, you know, the better the paperwork is, it kind of helps them out making a decision. And then once we're awarded CCG, then you know, they would take that paperwork, VS would, and write the bid specs for it, and take it out to bid for us. So, you know, they did that, you know, last summer when we repaved all the roads. So, you know, last summer we used one bid writer to write the bid, and then we used VS we use one bid writer to write the CCG, and then we use VS to write bid specs. So with the town's, you know, the board's approval, then we'll proceed forward on this stuff.
Make a motion to move forward with the streets and CCG.
Second.
Been motion made and properly seconded, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Comments from residents?
I have a question first. So I did not attend the special meeting for Baker Farms and utility service agreement. I've not watched that video, so that's my question to you. Do you want me to, is there any action that you guys are considering, or can we just wait until the next meeting?
We can just wait till the next meeting.
I don't think there's pending action right now, is there?
Comments from residents?
I want to thank you guys for moving forward with the noise ordinance, and especially you, Tammy, and Marshall Taylor, for taking the initiative and getting that done. There have been some concerns expressed about the potential for, since all the power is with one person or one department, that there would be potential, not necessarily with this department, but if we have staff changes or whatever, that could be used for, if someone dislikes someone, they could be targeted, or they could be, have a personal vendetta, or even a political vendetta. And so, I'm wondering if there can be some sort of appeals process built into it.
Well, I understand your concern, because I think the lady spoke one other
She
time
did, yeah.
about this, and what we tried to explain to her was, if she has concerns about her treatment, that if it happened to be one of the deputy marshals that were here, and she had concerns, she would go to the marshal, who would be their supervisor, and address the situation with him. If it's a problem that is with the marshal, then they can come to one of the liaisons for the police department, or anybody actually from the town council, to voice concerns, at which time we would, have a conversation with her, try to work it out with whoever the officer or the marshal was involved, and try to handle it that way.
So that is what you're considering the appeals process?
I would think that the integrity of the Dayton Police Department is that you should never, ever have to deal with that question.
Well, I would hope not, but some people seem to feel.
Understood.
Yeah.
Understood. But they can always feel free. If it's with one of the deputy marshals, they can always see the marshal at any time, during his working days. If they can see anybody on the council, if they have a problem with him, they can see the counselor.
No disrespect to anybody, but, I've seen, there's a lot of deference to, I'm sure, there's the marshal's gonna look out for his own. You guys always support the marshal. I've never seen somebody bring a complaint that you haven't supported the marshal. And probably rightly so, most of the time, but there's always that possibility for somebody. So I know, like in Lafayette and other places, they have an outside board. I don't know enough about it to know it's,
No,
there's not.
no. They go to internal affairs.
Internal affairs.
And
Well,
then-
it's an outside agency then,
No.
yeah,
Are you talking about ordinance enforcement?
yes.
Yes.
The feeling is that a citizen may be treated unjustly, so to speak, because of an ordinance that's in place.
Are you talking about the right to contest the ordinance?
Yes.
Or a complaint about the ordinance being, because
They
Not-
Go ahead.
Not to contest the ordinance, but to contest upon
right,
the enforcement, yeah.
I mean, in West Lafayette and Lafayette, they have West Lafayette City Court. It's not, found guilty just because you got a ticket. I haven't been asked to look at that, and I think that is a valid
Okay,
question.
would you just keep that in the back of your mind, look at it,
I don't,
to see what the process would be here more than just,
the process probably is already set forth in the town code for, any other ordinance violations, but I mean, I'm sure that there is some way to contest any ordinance, through due process.
I have a question too for you, Marshall, on the same subject. Your body cams, do they, when they pick up sound, do they pick up audio volume differences? So like, because I know this noise ordinance thing is going to be really hard for you for anybody to say you were being loud, and if you don't, like, what's the proof? I mean, so if you have the video, that if you're watching your video and you pull up and you can clearly tell the music, or there's somebody revving something up, or does it just stay all the same monotone, like, volume? I mean, because I don't know, I'm just thinking proof-wise, like, I know it's something that's really hard unless you're there and it's happening right then. Okay, it's being really loud.
It will pick up audio, so.
Will it pick it up in higher decibels though? Like you could tell clearly, like, I came over and talked to you closer, it's not set to kind of just maintain a mile
No.
local range. So you could use that if you had to, if somebody's possessed, you could have, you could hear music jamming behind them or something. I just wonder if there's any kind of,
Yeah, that's a good thought, because then it'd be good for both of them. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
any more comments from residents? Reports from council members, Rob?
Make a motion, we adjourn?
Motion made, probably seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Yes, it was. You should.
I didn't get that. Oh, some of that, there is a bill too, you don't have to. You can't
No, I was
contest.
talking at that way so we can drag it through the chairs.
So what happens is they can say they don't want to pay the ticket, they don't agree with it, or they can just not pay.
No, I know that's true with traffic, so are you
No, this is, I'm talking about town.
Oh, really?
I'm not talking about traffic citation. So what happens is, and we've done this a couple of times, once the ticket goes unpaid, for whether they ignore it, or they tell me that they don't want to pay it, or nobody has. So typically what we do is I turn that over to the So he will summons them in court, and they can contest it.
Oh, like that girl with the trash for 24 hours, right? Wasn't that an option for her? Did you tell her, well, if you don't pay it, right? You know what I'm talking about?
There is